Today's lesson: triplet control between hands and feet. Today you will learn 3 triplet patterns between your hands and feet. These patterns will help with hand and foot coordination. This type of triplet is a very useful tool in drum soloing and fills. These patterns look very simple but present a challenge in coordination at faster tempos. Ways to practice these patterns. Number 1. Practice each pattern at a variety of tempos from 40 beats per minute to as fast as you can play them cleanly. Use any sticking. Make sure that you have complete control of the pattern and you know exactly where each downbeat is in each measure. Number 2. Play this pattern around the entire drum kit. Improvise with whatever toms, cymbals, or other drums you choose. Number 3. Play each of the 3 patterns consecutively. Play from one pattern to the next without stopping and in tempo. Use any sticking and improvise around the entire drum kit at various tempos. If executed properly, these patterns sound very cool, but if you don't have the pattern down, they will sound very sloppy. So, make sure that you spend ample time getting comfortable with these patterns. So if you're ready, grab your drumsticks, get behind the drum set, and let's take a look at this exercise. Before we get into the actual exercise, and since I don't know how much you know about music and rhythm, I just want to quickly review how to count triplets. When you're practicing, get into the habit of counting out loud. I promise this will help your playing, your timing, and your note spacing tremendously. Take a look at the 2 examples. The numbers above each note indicate the count. In example 1, the count is 1, 2, 3, 4. And in example 2, the count is 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. Practice them both. Now that you have a basic understanding, let's get into the exercise. Here's the first triplet pattern. As you can see, the bass drum is played on the first note of the triplet. It's played on beats 1, 2, 3, and 4 of the measure. The snare drum, or any other drum you choose to play with your hands, is played on the middle and last note of the triplet. Practice this pattern slowly, making sure you are playing with complete control. Make sure you count out loud. Now let's take a look at the video and see how it sounds. Now that you know what the pattern sounds like, take a look at this page with all the sticking variations. Start with number 1 and work through the various tempos from 40 beats per minute to as fast as you can play the pattern cleanly. Play the hand part first on the snare drum only, and then, when you're comfortable, begin moving your hands around the drum set. Once you have practiced pattern number 1 through a wide range of tempos, and it sounds even and feels comfortable, then move on to the next sticking variation. Work your way down the page in this manner. Remember that this type of practicing is not one that you must complete in one day. Take your time with it because the more quality time you spend with something, the more ingrained it becomes. Before we move on to the next triplet variation, have a look at the sample practice chart. It's a good idea for you to create your own practice chart because it allows you to visually see your progress. Practicing in this way is really helpful for your overall playing. Now, let's take a look at the next triplet variation. So as you can see in this next variation, the bass drum has shifted over to the right by 1 triplet eighth note. Instead of being the first note of the triplet, the bass drum note now falls in the middle of the 3 notes. Take a look at the video example. Just as we did with the first pattern, practice this pattern at a variety of tempos and with a variety of sticking patterns, which you can see on this page. Once you're comfortable with the triplet pattern and the sticking pattern, start moving your hands around the drum set and slowly start increasing the tempo. Take a look at the next two videos and you will see what I mean. Here's the final variation of the triplet pattern. As you can see, the bass drum is played on the last note of the triplet. There is no video example for this variation, but by now you should understand how to practice this pattern. Just work your way through this pattern the same way we did with the last two patterns. Once again, incorporate these various sticking patterns when you practice this triplet variation. Make sure to be thorough with your practice. Don't let anything sound sloppy. Work on it until it sounds clean. Never try to rush through an exercise because in the end it's not doing you any good. So make sure you spend ample time practicing these patterns. Once you feel like you have a good grasp of each individual pattern, combine all three patterns into one exercise. Improvise with these patterns. Play them in any order. Play them on any drum. Play them at a variety of tempos. Play them without a set number of bars. Just move back and forth between the patterns whenever you feel. Dig into these patterns. They're really fun and they sound really cool. If you listen to recordings of John Bonham, Dave Weckl, Steve Gadd, they make exceptional use of these triplet variations in their soloing and their fills. My final thought of the day is this. Put in as much consistent and focused drum practice time as you can. What I mean by focused practice is to set goals that you want to achieve in your daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly practice sessions. The more time you devote to practicing in this manner, the faster you will progress in your drumming. Be disciplined, set goals, and practice hard, and we'll see you at the next lesson.